reducing cost and changing a business model is driven in many ways by innovation. We have to look at, as I said before, the outcomes that we want to create for our consumers or clients. We then have to look at how we think about creating those outcomes and whether there are alternative ways to create them. So in many ways you can actually use a burning platform like cost reduction as a way to innovate.
I think it's like all these things, it's a balance. I suppose the cost of inaction though is probably going to outweigh the cost of action over the longer term if you go back to the argument that consumers will want product that they trust, that came from responsible sources, and it will be driven in that way. So I guess the response was, can you afford not to do it?
I think there's some fundamentals within that in terms of what work are we doing that is absolutely necessary, what roles do people have in delivering that work, how do we think about the delivery of that in terms of human machine ecosystem, etc. So there are some typical and sort of in a way standard operating model choices that people have.
Looking at things like the supply chain and the environment that we're in, we rely heavily on suppliers to innovate and drive technology advancements in order for our projects and our business to be a success. So, a lot of those suppliers are under increasingly significant cost pressures, and we need to recognise that when we make business decisions. We need to focus very much on providing them with an environment that allows them to continue to make money, to continue to be able to invest in research and development, and continue to drive the technology improvements that we need to deliver our projects and operate our business in the current environment.
Setting teams up in an agile way so cross-functional teams, so I call this horizontal working instead of vertical working. Vertical working, I think, tends to lead to a lot of failure demand and a lot of waste between teams as you pass kind of activity or outcomes through the organisation. If you set teams up horizontally around a customer outcome, two things happen. One is cross-functional people come together to quickly solve outcomes. And you reduce the amount of failure demand in the system. But what you also do is you enable them to decide in the moment what has to be delivered first. What's the quickest thing we can get out of the door?
Setting some mindset shifts in the way that people go about them begins to set a very different context for then going after cost. So if we say we need to reduce our cost base by 20%, what if that was the target? How would we go about that? You're going to get a different answer from, okay, here's the cost base as it sits at the moment, what can we shave off that? Those two different approaches of sort of right to left thinking, starting with the end point in mind, versus left to right. Again, from the leadership skills perspective applied to that, will get you different levels of creativity and therefore innovation.
It's not easy and it will be increasingly difficult, but I think over the longer term, consumers would expect organisations to sort this problem out and help them be more sustainable, because asking them to be more sustainable is, as we know, quite a difficult thing to do, because changing consumer behaviour is very, very difficult.